If you have ADHD, this is the video you need to watch because you're going to get it. ADHD is so fucking frustrating. I've got a new definition for it though. The more and more I think about it, what ADHD comes to is just chronic boredom. You're constantly in a state of fighting off boredom. And that's why I think some people with ADHD are the hyperactive cleaners. They're constantly cleaning and organizing. They're the ones that are addicted to alcohol or weed or any other number of drugs that take away the boredom. Or they're doom scrollers on their phone because it takes away the boredom. Or they're over excessive eaters because it gives you a hit of dopamine that takes away the boredom. But all ADHD seems to be about really is just constant boredom and fighting that boredom. And some of us are better at finding ways to fight that boredom. The key is obviously activity, but then there's only so many things you can do before you just wear yourself out and you get overwhelmed and exhausted, which then puts you in a state of constant, I don't know. There's just so many times in my life that I do things because I'm bored, and that's great. It gets me up off the couch, and then I'll create a routine around that thing, but then the routine itself makes me fucking bored. So then I stop that thing and I fall off the wagon. It's just such a fucking frustrating thing. A constant state of meh unless you're doing something. I don't know how else to explain it. It's not depression. It can turn into depression if you're not somebody who's good at doing things, or if you haven't recognized the fact that you need to do things in order to fight off the meh. That's why I so often listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and I read books and things like that, because it gives me a hit of dopamine because I'm doing something that I find interesting. It's why our brains are constantly running. I don't know. Right now I'm in a very meh state, and I know the fix is activity. But there's all the activities I can think of doing, I immediately think, I don't have the patience for that. Because I think, I'd love to write all these thoughts down. I'd love to continue on my speech that I'm writing. I'd love to continue on my book that I'm writing. But all that requires patience. And then I start to feel so bad for my little stepdaughter, who has all these same feelings and is just constantly expressing how she's bored. And my immediate answer has been to tell her the same thing I was told all my life, is go find something to do. But I understand the feeling of not being able to find something to do because you've done that. And it's not interesting anymore, because cutting up paper into 1,000 pieces might have been fun yesterday, but it's not fun today. And the problem is, she's 9 years old, so she can't articulate how she feels. She knows she feels bored, but she doesn't understand why she's always bored. So then she starts thinking there's something wrong with her, but she can't articulate the fact that she feels like there's something wrong with her. So it's just a feeling of frustration. I think when you can't articulate something, it becomes frustrating. And so that's why I think most kids with ADHD are left with a constant state and a constant sense of frustration. And that frustration turns into anger, because then you get mad that you're always frustrated. And you don't know why you're frustrated. And you don't know why you're bored all the time when everybody else doesn't seem to be bored. My girlfriend and I, who's also ADHD and has fought the same things all her life, she's been the constant cleaner and organizer to keep herself busy. But you can only clean and organize so much before all of a sudden that gets boring. And then you got to find something else to do. Right now she's in a good upstate because she's really into a new fitness routine. The scary part though when you have ADHD is you know that's not going to last. So you have to anticipate, and you have to get really good at anticipating what to do when you're bored of that. It's why I self-medicated all my life. But so like I said, I talked to my girlfriend about it this morning. We had a good long talk about it, and it made me feel a lot better, made me feel a little better to have somebody to talk to who completely understands how I'm feeling and what we're feeling. And then because we talked so long, I had to rush getting ready for work. Oddly enough, that made me feel better. Took my mind off the boredom. And that's why ADHD people are procrastinators, and we wait to the last minute to do things, because that sense of urgency creates a feeling of, oh, I got something to do. That'll occupy my mind so that I won't just be thinking of how bored I am. And the only way you can function is when you're not feeling meh and bored. And nobody can function when they're meh and bored, I think. And so we create situations where we can't be meh and bored. We wait till the last minute. We go up against deadlines. So then we have to rush and we have to focus entirely on that. And we have to use our ability to hyperfocus when we're interested in something or when we have to do something. And that's a superpower, but how do you turn it on and off? Most of the time it just comes or it goes. And it's not something we can turn on and off. Trust me, if I could turn on my ability to hyperfocus anytime I wanted to, I'd be a whole different person. So we're left with trying to find things in our life that we know make us hyperfocus and get in that flow state. Because interestingly enough, biologically, when you're in a flow state, that's when all your 5 neurotransmitters are in a peak state. One of the only times in the world when your neurotransmitters are all in a peak state is when you're in that flow state, that state of hypervigilance and hyperfocus. So many people can just turn that on and off though. I wish I could. Knowing that I was about to listen to a podcast that really interests me, the T-Boy podcast. That gets me excited for a little bit, but that's 19, 20 minutes of my day. Now I'm back to being meh. So I got on camera to talk, which makes me feel good, and I appreciate the fact that I can get it out and express it. But right now I'm already thinking about the fact that this is a long, rambling video that nobody's going to want to listen to because it's choppy, it's inconsistent, and it needs to be edited first before I put it out there. But then that immediately makes me start thinking, the last thing I want to do is sit down and edit a fucking 10-minute video. So it makes me start thinking, well, probably I won't put this video out. And now I'm thinking, well, Paul, you need to just put it out anyways. If nobody watches it, nobody watches it. Great. I wish I could just pick and choose and tell people, hey, if you have ADHD, this is the video you need to watch because you're going to get it. And maybe I put that statement, I do the little bit of editing and I put that statement right at the beginning and that'll get some people to watch it. But I don't know. It's so frustrating. Because not too long ago, just a few weeks ago, I was in this state where I was just feeling phenomenal. Life was great. There was nothing wrong with life. And I know there's a few different activities that I have not been doing lately that is probably attributing to it. Number one, I haven't been self-medicating with weed. That's been probably a month and a half now, almost 2 months. But then I picked back up my Adderall. But then I stopped doing that about a week ago, which is probably the reason why about a week ago I started getting back into this meh state. So I need something else that's going to pick me back up again and get those dopamine transmitters going. And I'm just having a hard time and I'm struggling right now with finding that thing. And again, making these videos makes me happy, but the thought of having to edit these videos frustrates me because I know I don't have the patience for that. So again, maybe like I said, the key is just put it out there and say, fuck it. Who cares? I don't know. Pulling up to my client's house now though, so I don't know how much longer I can talk because of course I'm running late. But just a thought for you guys out there, I guess today. Maybe some of you can relate, maybe some of you can understand what I'm going through and the cycles of ups and downs that we go through with ADHD and the frustration that we have knowing that why can't I just feel like this all the time? Nothing significant has changed in my life. Why can't I just feel like this? And the sense of jealousy and envy that you get of people who can seem to do that without much effort. The only way I can stay in an upstate is if I'm just constantly focused on being in an upstate and constantly focused on doing something different. And there's the irony in it. I need a routine that keeps me going when I'm in these meh states. Like I have a really good lunch routine now that keeps me from overeating and binge eating, but that routine gets boring. So at the same time, it's a catch-22. You need the routine, but the routine is the killer. And so it's in a constant state. And what I talked to my girlfriend this morning about is making sure that we have things that will make our routine spicy, at the ready to go when we need it. And maybe that's the key, is we can establish these really good solid routines that will save us when we're feeling meh, but then also have a list of things that we can add to the routines that fit within our goals and our guidelines, but that make it a little spicy, you know? I don't know. I'm 14 minutes into this. Probably nobody's going to listen to it, but who knows? Maybe somebody will. I don't know. Love you guys.